Hi everyone, it's TrailTrekBeck. So today we are back on Queenston Heights Trail, the Bruce Trail. So if you see to my left here, if I was to go up that slope, it would lead me to the main trail that would take me back to the Queenston Heights Park. But I'm going to continue to the right because there is a little surprise that I found on the trail that I really want to share with you guys, and I think you're going to love it. So you can see that we're actually walking down below where the main trail is. So just up that escarpment on that rock cliff is where the main Bruce Trail is. So we are actually down to the right of it. And you can see to the ground here, it's not the soil that we were trailing on before, it's sand. So it's a lot softer here. It's a completely different kind of trail, and it's not marked either. So out there is just a lot of development that's going on, but I'm not going to take you there. So that's where we came from, but we're going to head forward still. And you can see that there's actually, when I bring the camera back around, you can see that there's a little fire pit here. So it's a pretty popular spot, and a lot of people come here because you can access it without going down the whole main Bruce Trail. So you can see, if there wasn't so many trails, you could see that it was more of a cliff here. But what I really want to show you within these cliffs and the rocks is I look very carefully through all this green vegetation. To the left and the right, you can see two holes underneath this escarpment. So I'm going to go ahead and approach it. And now from the distance, it kind of looks small, but as I get closer and closer, it opens up completely. So I'm taking my time going down. I feel this really nice, cool breeze coming from underneath this cliff here. It's very calm. If you hear some water splashing, there's tons of little frogs in here that are jumping around. So just on top of this huge rock that I'm under is where the main Bruce Trail is. So it's very cool that we're underneath it right now. So this is my first attempt coming into the caves here. And what I'm doing is just trying to get an idea of how far back they go and just how cold it is and how deep the water is, because I haven't put on my proper boots yet. So I'm not going to trek through it just yet. I'm kind of just doing a reconnaissance on it, trying to get an idea of it. It is nice and cool down here, which is lovely. So those are the two entrances I showed you earlier as I approached it. And you can see that it actually expands quite far underneath. I'm just interested right now in going through the next entrance. So I'm just circling through these rocks. Okay, so I just did a quick cut here. I came all the way back around to where we had initially started on the left-hand side. So this is my second attempt at the caves here. So I just want to give you some perspective here. When we first approached the cave, it looked like it was just a small hole in the ground. But as we got closer and closer, we actually descend down further into the ground, and it widens quite a bit. So you can see how small I start to get as I get further down into the cave. You can kind of hear that breeze too, and you can hear the birds. Okay, so this is my second attempt down in the cave. And because I kind of knew what to expect, because I knew these caves were here, I brought some rain boots so I can go trek through the water a little bit. So this is going to be fun. I'm just going to get my kit on. So I've never gone into these caves before. I've seen them here just a couple times before. I've never actually ventured out this far. And then one day I decided to take the right instead of the left back onto the main Bruce Trail. And then I found these caves and I just couldn't believe it. I usually don't go this way because all the construction to the right hand side, and there's also the highway nearby. So it gets kind of loud and noisy. But today it was quiet, and because it was a weekend, I guess there was no construction going on. So I'm like, you know what, today I'll take this way back. And then, of course, the caves were here, and I'm like, this is the day I go in. So it's a little chilly, and just in case there's water dropping from the ceiling or anything, I'm going to throw on my rain jacket just so I can be more prepared. And the only thing is, I'm not exactly as prepared as I should be. I did forget my headlamp at home, so I can't go in as far as I'd like to because, as you can see, it's almost pitch black. Oh, a fun little fact too is I named these caves Campbell Caves. We're on the Bruce Trail, and one of my favorite actors is Bruce Campbell. So he does some fun horror movies. I don't know if you've ever seen The Evil Dead, but I love those movies. So because we're on the Bruce Trail and my favorite actor is Bruce Campbell, I call these Campbell Caves. All right, so we're ready to go in. This is my second attempt at it. I'm going to go nice and slow because I do have rubber boots on, so the traction on them is not going to be the best. So I'm sitting here for a second to let my feet acclimate to the water because the water is actually very, very cold. And I'm just giving myself a second to acclimate to it so that I can walk with a little bit more stability. And there's lots of rocks here, so of course rubber on wet rocks is never a good combination. So I'm just really going to take my time as I walk out into the cave. You can still hear the bird in the background. I don't know if you heard that little thump in the water, but that was a frog jumping. That's why I chuckled. There he is floating. I know it's kind of hard to see with the stones, but he's floating there. So again, I'm coming to the right. When I first came into the caves, there was two openings on the left and the right. I came into the left opening, and now I'm veering off into the right like I did before. So that was the first, see, that's way back there. To the far left is the first entrance, and then as I pan back, that was the other entrance. So I'm going to keep going forward. I see some light down here, so I know there's another entrance slash exit that I'd like to go peek at and see if I can get through it. But again, I'm really just going to take my time. There's tons of rocks here and I'm slipping a bit, so I'm just trying to go slow. So you can see I'm actually getting pretty far into the cave. I'm trying to stay close to the light because the flashlight on my cell phone is not sufficient, and I did forget my headlamp today. But I don't want to go off into the darkness. One, I could get lost quite easily, and two, I can't see where my feet are going, and that could be very dangerous. And since I did the smart thing of coming here alone, I don't want to risk anything. If you kind of hear me gasping there and sinking, The water is very cold and it suddenly got super deep and the water came right up to my thighs and it was freezing. So there is another exit slash entrance here. Of course, the water is nice and murky because I've stirred up all the sand. It is very, very cold. So right now I'm trying to think of a way to climb out of here. I have wet rubber boots on, so I have to be super careful. And of course I'm doing this with one hand as always because I'm using my one hand to hold my cell phone. Alright, so this is the exit I came out. There's the little hole I crawled out of. So let's go around and find the main entrance I was just at. It's not going to be too far here, but I know it's going to be to my right because that's when I came in here to the caves, I went to my right. So now I can turn back around and just kind of do a circle back to the main entrance. If you can hear the water sloshing in my boots, they're quite full. Very cold too. Alright, so this is our main little entrance. So again, I came back into the left tunnel. And this is going to be my third attempt at this. So I'm just going to empty out my boots. It's a lot of water. And that bird is just so lovely, still chirping and singing. Okay, so this is the third attempt at it. Again, I'm just taking my time, rubber boots on wet rocks, so just going to go nice and slow. This time, instead of going off to the right, I'm going to stay to the left and go straight ahead. I don't know if you saw that again, but a little frog jumped in the water. That's what that sound was and all the little ripples. So that was where we just went, and this is where we just came in from. You can see there's just tons of rocks, and this is all formed from water erosion. And that's why there's lots of random rocks and openings here that you can kind of crawl through. But again, you know, just being careful and using your discretion before you commit to climbing something, because we don't want to be moving anything that's too big or going to cause too much of a ruckus, because we don't want anything collapsing on top of us. So just using my discretion here before I commit to any climbing. But right now, I'm just treading out through the water. It's not too dark yet. I'm barely even 20 feet from the entrance. It's just starting to get a little dark. But the problem that I'm experiencing right now is, one, yeah, the water is getting quite deep again, so my boots are filling, and it is making it much harder to walk through the water. But I'm also treading through sand. So every time I take a step, my boots sink into the sand a little bit. So not only are my boots full of water and heavy to lift, but they're sinking into the bottom. So right now, like, I just a little bit stuck. My boot was sinking and I'm trying to pull it out. So because I was having a hard time moving, I don't want to go out too much further because, like I said, I am alone. And I was starting to sink quite a bit, and it is sand, and I don't know if there's going to be a soft spot that I'll just go under, and the water is getting quite deep, so I'm going to come back. I just wanted to go out for a little bit. It was still bright enough for me to see from the sun in the entrance here, but because I was sinking and getting stuck, I didn't want to risk it. There's one of the frogs. You can see the little guy there just chilling. Poor little frog. So I'm just going to make my way back to the entrance here. I couldn't go out too far. I tried to go out further, but like I said, my boots were getting stuck. I was sinking. So I had the bright idea. I told my mom this, and she got a little scared, and she's like, "You're not going alone." I'm like, "I know. I got a water tube to come back out here, but I haven't decided when I'm going to do that. But I do think it would be a lot of fun, and of course I would bring someone next time." Okay, so this is my 4th attempt at going into the caves. This is all done in one day, but I wanted to give you a different perspective now. So I'm basically doing the exact same trail ahead that you just saw, only this time I wanted to set the camera down and let you see me go through it so you can see how big the cave actually is. Now it's deceiving. It doesn't look as tall as it is because of the water. But the water is almost 3 feet deep, and you sink a little bit more because it's sand, right? It's very, very soft sediment, so it doesn't give you a lot of support and stability. And you can see as I was walking forward too, I was slipping a lot because there's tons of rocks throughout the sand bed. So it's making the trek very difficult. So I started putting my hands on the ceiling. And just to give you some height perspective, I'm just over 5'7". And my head is pretty close to the cave ceiling here. So it kind of gives you an idea of how deep and tall this cave actually is. Because it looked so small when I first approached it. But once I get out into it, it's a lot bigger. And I don't know how far it stretches because I can't get all the way to the back. So I just wanted you to see me trek forward so you can kind of get an idea of how big the cave is. So that was my final attempt. Again, I am alone. I don't have a headlamp, so I don't want to go out too far. But I just wanted to give you guys a bit of an experience of the cave so you can see how cool it is, because it's almost completely hidden. So you walk up to the fire pit here. All my stuff here is drying because it's drenched. But you can see the 2 holes in the back, but it would be so easy to miss with all the vegetation around. All right, so that aside, those are the caves. I'm going to head on back now. I got dressed. I waited here for a little bit to let my stuff dry, and I'm going to head on back. So that is the cliff edge that we were just climbing underneath. So again, the main Bruce Trail is on top of this cliff edge. So we are down beside it, which is very interesting. Again, we're on the escarpment, so this is why there's so many different levels of the terrain and why there's so many of these big rocks and boulders that 1, we can climb up on top, and then 2, we can climb underneath because of the water erosion. So it's pretty obvious that this trail is often trekked. It is still sand, but it's trekked enough to make a mark here, right? So it is the unmarked trail. This isn't considered the Bruce Trail. It's unmarked, and it is right next to new development that's going on beside us. So the main road out to the right-hand side, just beyond all of that development, is called Portage Road. So it is one of the main streets that run in Niagara Falls. Just to give you a bit of perspective of where we are right now. So it's hard to see with all this development now, but the main road is just right over there, and eventually you'll hear the highway too. So even though the Bruce Trail is right to our side, we have this huge development that's going on. I don't know what they're putting in here, but it's been going on for a couple of years at least. So there's a gravel path we're walking on. And again, just to my left, past all the vegetation is where the Bruce Trail is. So you can see all the development going on here. I'm just going to do a few quick cuts to kind of get us through this and back onto the main trail so I can show you how this little area gets back onto the main Bruce Trail. So I'm going to go ahead and do those cuts. So you see this rock to my left. I use it as my landmark to know that the entrance back onto the main trail is coming up. So again, you can see all the development that's going on. It is kind of interesting if you've never seen it before, but I guess it gets a little old after a while. But straight ahead here, it's so easy to miss this entrance. It's right here on the left. And you can't really see it until I approach it. That's why I use that one big rock or boulder as my landmark so I know when it's coming up, because I have done this many times and missed this entrance and had to backtrack. So now we're right back on the main Bruce Trail. It's really that close. They're right beside each other. So you can see the white mark on the tree there. That tells us we're on the Bruce Trail. And off to the left here is my landmark for when I come into the Bruce Trail. I know that this is my 2.2 kilometers in. So now that I've seen that, I know I have 2.2 kilometers to get back to the main entrance, back into Queenston Heights Park. So I'm going to do some quick cuts just to get us through to the end so you can see we're still following the white trail now. You can see that the markings on the tree there. So here it is. This is the end of, the beginning of the Queenston Heights Bruce Trail. So you can see it just at the end there. You can actually see the Niagara Parks work trucks at the end there. So it really does just do a loop around. So it is easy to get onto the part of the trail that I just showed you. When you come back to the main Bruce Trail, there's two options to go left or right, and you can just choose either or, and then if you go right to where the caves are, it can loop you right back on. So it's not too difficult. It's easy to navigate. Even though it's unmarked, it's still easy to find and to navigate your way through. So if it's something you wanted to try, I definitely recommend it. So again, I'd like to leave you with some pictures. The stats, I don't really have much to say except the water was deeper than I thought it would be, and it was cold, but the cave was nice and cool. Again, it was a hot, humid day, so hanging out in the cave for about an hour was lovely. I do recommend, like my mom suggested to me, don't come here alone. Do come here with a buddy. Come here with the proper equipment. I would love to go in and explore it further, but of course I would never do that alone. So I really hope you guys enjoyed venturing through the cave with me. It was kind of a nice little random find one day on my hike, so it was a lovely surprise. So again, thank you for watching this, and I hope to see you guys next time. As always, keep trekking.